The meeting between the federal government and the Academic Staff Union of Universities commenced with both parties negotiating with a view to reaching an agreement. This followed the recent 21-day notice of industrial action by the ASU over the alleged non-commitment by the federal government to implement agreements reached with the union. The Minister of Education said President Tinubu has directed the Minister of Education to prevent another nationwide strike that could disrupt academic activities in Nigeria's public universities by renegotiating to address problems inherited by his administration. Among the union's demands are the non-implementation of the 2009 renegotiated agreements and accumulated academic allowances that remain unpaid. The meeting, which ended without reaching agreement, is to reconvene on 6th September for the continuation of the negotiation. The federal government set up a new executive leadership of pro-chancellors to further discuss matters arising from the meeting. Also, a joint committee comprising ASU, Federal Ministry of Finance, Labour Ministry, among others. Also, all residual issues, especially all presidential directives like exemption from IPPIS, are to be looked into. On this episode of the program, our guests shall be discussing outcome of the federal government and the ASU meeting. Welcome to another episode of Nigeria Today. I'm Ikaria Clinton. Thanks for joining us. Joining us for the discussion is Ologu Magnus, an educationist. You're welcome to Nigeria Today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, also with us in the studio is Dr. Christopher Edewo. He's an education consultant. You're welcome to Nigeria
Thank
Today.
you so much.
Now, I will start with you, Christopher. Now, how would you describe the federal government's commitment to amicable negotiation?
Well, first, I must commend the president for the proactive action taken to avert this looming strike that would have also affected our students negatively. I want to really give kudos to him for this proactive action. I'm happy that the meeting that just ended in good faith to be reconvened by 6th of September. I think our president is a father who will listen to the yearnings of the masses, and more especially our students particularly who have suffered adversely as a result of this incessant strike by the lecturers. It has affected students. You know, the effect is so enormous. You know, it has made the public university, you know, become a glorified secondary school, to say, you know, because I know of a student who got admission to University of Abuja. Was it 3 years? Was it 5 years? 4 years back? Was in 200 level, and then when the strike was just, you know, was there and without a definite date of resumption, had to go back to a private university. Graduated a year or 2 years before, you know, her colleagues that they both started in the same school. You know, it's very, very bad for our system, for our development, for the economy of a country, you know, and the effect is so enormous. Number one, you see that this strike, frequent and regular strike, might make students to lose interest in pursuing their programs, and that will increase the high rate of
let's look at
crime in the society.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's look at the negotiation. I'll come to you. Now let me come to you. Magnus. Now, some of these issues were, of course, inherited from the past administration, and this administration is, you know, open. And if you look at the outcome, you know, some of the grievances addressed is the exit from IPPIS, and of course, according to the minister, this has been resolved by the president, and of course, it's because of, you know, bureaucratic bottleneck. But this has been resolved. So, what does it tell of the present administration?
I think I want to appreciate a particular statement that came out from you. You say inherited, which means that what ASU is talking about is not a problem of today. It is a problem that started for a very long time. It was inherited. So for them to sit with the government today and negotiate it, that has to it speaks volume to the commitment of the government in trying to solve the problems of ASU, because we know that ASU problem is sometimes, when you look at the way the government have been touching it, for the way they approach the matter today, and they just fix it the next, I think on the 6th of September, shows that the government is committed, because they don't want our students to be staying at home. No matter how somebody wants to look at it, I still believe that if the ASU itself for the university lecturers will be factoring the student into consideration, I don't think they will be talking about this strike and other things. Because when the students are not factored, that is why the strike is always there. Because if the students are factored, you know that, for instance, we as parents, we have budgeted the students are in school now. Once they come back, you know that a child or a student you gave 50,000 naira to go to school. By the time you come back, you're not going to collect that money from him. You will start feeding that child afresh. And by the time the strike is off, you are definitely not going to ask him to use the money I gave to you to go back to school. You will give him afresh. So the government calling ASU for negotiation. Negotiation, consultation is always the best way to go. And so for them to have come up today to agree on that negotiation shows that the government is committed. The government is committed in the yearning of the ASU. And I think ASU also should, buy whatever the government is trying to appeal with them.
Now, of course, just like Magnus rightly mentioned here, that a new date has been set where, of course, a committee has been set up to look at the issues, okay? And of course, on the 6th of September, they are coming back to the... However, the government has said, ASU, have an open mind in whatever, will I say, demands you're making. How important is it for they to have an open mind? Just like you rightly said, they should factor in also the students.
Well, actually, I think on the part of the ASU, they should also consider, like as my co-speaker said, they factor the students and put them into consideration. I honestly believe that these governments are really sincere, and then they are proactive, and I know they are going to resolve the issue. A road was not built in a day. Like you rightly said, we have the 1992 agreement, we have that of 1999 agreement, 2019. So it's not a thing of today, and it's an issue that have prolonged, and you cannot expect the federal government to magically solve all the problems and their demands and all that. My appeal to the ASU is to at least have an open mind and then know that the government is taking various steps to address this issue. They should see to it that whatever proposal the government might bring out, they should also buy into it. Not for them, their staff and the association alone, but for particularly our students. We need to reduce the rate of crime in Nigeria. And I don't mind, it's a devil's workshop. When you go on strike and these students are kept for 3 months without going to school and all that, what do you expect of them? We are battling with the issue of kidnapping. Who are those kidnapping? They are not talking of 82 years people. They are talking of from 15 years to about 28 years or 30 years. And they are not even the out-of-school children. They are graduates, undergraduates, who are supposed to have graduated by now and all that. So to reduce crime and other atrocity and vices in the society, the ASU should also look into that and have an open mind for reasonable discussion.
Now back to you, Magnus. Of course, Christopher has made a valid point here, and the federal government, just like you said, have shown commitment to ensuring. Now, how important is this negotiation to the education the education sector, because if you, from what's the outcome today, it shows that, of course, first of all, the strike somehow has been averted because of at least they've gotten to a particular point.
Yes.
So how important is this to the education sector in Nigeria?
Yes, it is important to the education sector, because if the negotiation is not effective and the peradventure also refuse to accept, then it will affect the timetable of the education sector, the ASU timetable. In fact, the timetable set by the lecturer themselves that they are going to use to conduct the exam to assess the student that they are teaching or lecturing. So the importance of this negotiation is that if at the end the government is able to convince ASU, because I know, there is no time ASU has made an attempt to go for strike, that whatever the outcome may be will remain the same with what they actually intended to do or what they had in mind in going that strike. For instance, if they are saying it's because of salary, for government to ask them to come back, please continue, that salary will not remain the way it was before. So if the students are factored into consideration to avoid disrupting the timetable set by the ASU itself, just like my colleague have said here, he said that, this student in the university, it will prolong their years, number of years in school, and it will also affect the parents. Me, I'm too much particular about the parents, because I have budgeted for my child to go back to school. I have given him money to feed himself for either 2 months or 3 months. And I know that if this boy or this girl comes back to the house, I will not say, please bring out the pocket money I gave to you. He may just use it to flex and enjoy himself, waiting for the strike to be over, for him to go back. And when the strike is over, I don't think he will tell me, I will ask him, please, the money I gave to you last 2 months, use it and go back to school. So that is why I'm saying it is important that this negotiation is going on, so that the academic timetable will not be disrupted, and the students will graduate when they are supposed to graduate. Those who are due for service will go for service. Do you know that there are some people or some universities that will write exam, and if they are done with that exam, peradventure by November, they will mobilize some students for NYC. If that happens, the strike happens, what will happen? Those students will come back home and stay. Why do you think every time we talk about crime here and there? The last protest of 2020 or thereabout, it was because the students were at home. And that is why the government is doing everything. And that is why they are doing everything,
we are trying to avert such a...
Yes, doing everything possible to ensure that such thing is not done, so that they will remain in the school.
Okay, back to you, Christopher. Now, with the commitment shown by the federal government, in all of this, how do you think ASU can reciprocate?
I think I know certainly they have conscience, ASU. They are also parents. I don't think they intentionally want the student to stay at home. I think both parties really have the interests of the students at heart. I know now that the federal government has shown strong commitment to ensure that the strike is averted and that some of their demands are met, even if not 100%. I think ASU will go back to the round table and also reconsider the federal government proposal. And I think they will come back 6th of September with a positive outcome. I'm 100% sure. Because I also know that they mean well for the nation, and they also try to see that our educational system and the facilities in all the university are in good order for a good learning and then improve academic standards.
Now, Magnus, the federal government said that they review the findings before next meeting. So how important is it?
Yes, that is to tell you that the federal government is responsible. It is very responsive to tell you that they will review the outcome before next meeting, so that they will have something tangible to tell ASU not to go on strike. That is just the reason. Because if the government is not responsible, they wouldn't have appealed to ASU. It is because the federal government is responsible. That is why they are appealing to us, telling them before, imagine if, I don't want to make references to other government or this, but you can imagine they had a meeting today, between now to 6th of September, it's very close. I think it's just a week interval or less than 2 weeks. If there is no commitment, I don't think they will just fix just interval, I mean a very short interval. What if the federal government said, okay, we'll meet again by October? It simply means that you are telling the ASU to go on strike. But that time frame shows that the commitment of the federal government is there, and they are ready to comply to ASU. And that is why, like my brother said, ASU should also, that is the lecturers, should also factor and be open-minded in the negotiation of the with the federal government, so that something positive will come out of it. And there is no how something positive will not come out of it. If something positive will not come out of it, we will not be talking about negotiation. The negotiation is not to produce negative, rather it is to produce what? Positivity.
Oh, thank you very much. Now, Christopher, now, among some of the demands that was placed forward by ASU is halting the proliferation of universities across the country. Is this not a good thing that we have, lots of universities coming up?
Well, I think, to me, ASU demand is genuine. Halting proliferation of universities and all that. Because one, the existing ones are not yet properly equipped. Why creating other universities? I think some of these new universities are for political reasons, though the government might mean well by trying to ensure that more students are accommodated. I think with the other intention of creating more universities is to accommodate more students. Because in a rich sense, you discover that the facilities that are available in the existing universities cannot cater for the number of students that put up and write JAM on yearly basis. So, but if you also look at the various agreements and the various demands of ASU, various governments, not even this government particularly, from 1992, 1999 to 2019, we see that all these demands are not met. And ASU will feel that it is important for you to concentrate on a very smaller scale than to keep on creating university that you cannot cater for. And that is why they are asking that they should put a halt to the proliferation. And I think with all of this, the federal government, I know this government have a listening ear, more especially our president, who is a father. I know he will reconsider some of these demands and ensure that our universities are properly equipped. It's our yearning as parents and as stakeholders too.
Now, Magnus, of course, the next meeting is 6th of September. Like you rightly mentioned, you've mentioned several. What do you think both parties should take to the negotiating table?
In the first place, they have to be open-minded by ASU. If ASU is open-minded, I know whatever the government is actually, the negotiation is that there must be something on the table that the government is presenting. Rome was not built in a day. So I believe that if ASU will be open-minded to factor the student or put them into consideration for the fact that the federal government is not coming to tell them, no, we are not ready for you now. If the federal government is coming to say, this is from your own demand, you demanded for this, you demanded for that, but for now, this is what we can afford for you to continue not to disrupt your academic calendar. I think that's the best way to go. Because if you look at the situation of the country now, I'm afraid, and I don't want a situation where ASU will, vehemently refuse to the demand, to the offer of the federal government and decide to go on strike.
I don't think they will do that.
So that is what I'm saying. So I am thinking that I believe, that is why I said, I pray that they don't refuse the offer of the federal government, because the federal government, the negotiation is that they are bringing something to the table. So ASU should be open-minded, bear the student in mind, and accept for negotiation to continue. Like my brother rightly said, this problem is not problem of yesterday, it is inherited. And so I don't think it can be solved in one day. It's a continuous process.
Yes, of course, it's a continuous process, like Magnus has said.
True.
How important is it for ASU to ensure that everything is ended, everything ends amicably?
Like he said, it's only a responsible government that can immediately, proactively call for an urgent meeting to address this sensitive issue. I know the federal government bears in mind that presently the state of the nation is very, volatile to anything and all that. So that's the more reason why they are very proactive. For me, ASU should, draw back their swords and then sit tight and also know that as of now, the state of the nation is not will not permit this kind of strike, because it will increase and heighten the pain in that existing pain already created by some economic factors, so that will cause another havoc. So I really want to appeal to ASU to listen to the federal government and then accept some of their proposals. Like he said, Rome was not built in a day. They should not expect that the federal government should solve the 100% demand, at least. And I believe that something new must be brought to the table. Whatever the federal government brings to the table, I want to appeal to ASU to look into it and have a proper consideration in order to ensure that the academic calendar this year is not disrupted. It's appeal from parents, from stakeholders, and to every concerned citizens to say that enough of strike. We have had so much. It has never produced any good result. It has resulted to, loss of interest by our students in pursuing their program. It has cut short their plan. It has emotionally and mentally affected our student. Cutting short plan, a student that feels that he needs to graduate for 4 years and after that probably go for his master's outside country or start working and all that, and now spend extra 7 years in a program that ought to, complete for 4 years is complete devastation, emotionally, mentally, and otherwise. So ASU should have this in consideration. I also know there are also parents, and some of their children are also in these universities too. Okay. So I think.
Thank you very much. Now, Magnus, your parting word for both parties.
Yes, I would say negotiation is always the best way to go. It's better than confrontation. Thank you.
And with this, we draw the curtain on this episode of Nigeria Today on NTA News 24. We wish to appreciate our guest, Dr. Christopher Dewo, an education consultant. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And also, we had Ologu Magnus, an educationist. Thank you so much for your time and your contribution. And to the viewer, thank you for being part of this program. Don't forget, Nigeria Today airs every weekday at 7:30 p.m. on NTA News 24. You can also check out this episode and others on www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Hub. Once again, thank you for watching. I am Victoria Clinton. Goodbye.
NTA News 24 has the